So I watched Spider-Man Lotus the other day, and I am shocked. I did not think it could be this bad.
You do seriously surprise me.
Thank you, Chef. I was hoping you'd see that. I mean, I'd give it all I got. Give you 110.
You surprise me to how shit you are.
The movie specifically isn't so bad. People are massively over-exaggerating that it's the worst thing ever. It's not. I think the worst thing about it is, unfortunately, Peter Parker. They managed to make him the most unlikable protagonist I've seen in a very long time. And I expected to like this version, coming off of Tom Holland's very lightweight Spider-Man. I was excited to see something a little more serious, but not this serious. A dark tone can work very well with Spider-Man, but it's a balancing act. I don't really think this movie succeeds with what it was going for. This is a depressing, dreary, sad watch. Everybody, especially Peter, is sad because of Gwen's death. Everyone's just so incredibly depressed. It's actually quite hard to watch in one go. But here's where my issue with Peter Parker's character comes in. One of the great things about his writing is even when he's in a bad situation, he always makes the most of it. Spider-Man 2 is a perfect example of doing this right, and it's what makes him so likable there. Which then brings us to Spider-Man Lotus's Peter Parker. They make him the most unlikable version of the character I've ever seen. He takes out his frustrations on others and in general is just mean to every single person around him. He absolutely goes off on Mary Jane for asking if he wants to go to a party. And yeah, to be fair to Peter, she asked that at the wrong place and at the wrong time. But I still don't think that excuses how horrible he is to her. And I don't even think Gwen's death justifies it from the audience's perspective. All you get is a few flashback sequences, and I know what they are trying to do, but I just don't think it makes sense for Peter to be so unlikable. You can tell this exact story without having Peter be so painful to watch. They just needed to make him a little nicer. I mean, Harry's dad literally dies and he still laments him for not going to Gwen's funeral. You'd genuinely be forgiven to think he's going through his black suit arc. They just went too far with it in my opinion. And I'm all for Peter Parker being selfish and making mistakes, to a point. But if it makes him this unlikable and it's not because of the symbiote, then I think you need to dial it back. For example, instead of Peter just attacking MJ at the graveyard, it would have been so much better if he just made one rude comment, dismissed her, and walked away. Then later, he apologizes on the phone. It would have got the point across without making him look like such an awful person. And not to mention what he does to that poor terminally ill child. He tells him that everything he believes in or thought he believed in about Spider-Man is fiction. Then leaves the room all depressed, and it's like, what the hell? This kid could be dead any day and you just drop him with that and leave? How unlikable are you really trying to make him? Even if none of that stuff is true, at least let him die believing in something. And the only reason he even returns is because he's basically guilted into it by the kid's mother. Man, this is so messed up. At least when he returns, he starts to finally feel like Spider-Man. And in general, the rest of the scene is really good. Although I think it's unnecessarily dark to show the kid's gravestone in the very next scene. It would have been far better left ambiguous like the 90s series did, which this was obviously homaging. It only revealed at the very end that she was terminally ill. I gotta say, the thing that annoys me so much about this Peter Parker is that I get what they were trying to tell with him, but they could have so easily done it in a way that doesn't make him look so bad. At times he's quite tone deaf and stupid too, it's weird, and you barely even get a glimmer of his good side before the end of the movie. What has always made him likable in the past is when things are rough, he takes it out on himself, not on others. But in this movie it's the opposite. He seems to exclusively take it out on others, and I kind of hate that. In every scene Peter's in, you want to root for the other person because they're usually the more reasonable one. And I know it's because Peter's sad, but he still should have self-awareness. And maybe it's just not for me. But all in all, this is my least favorite interpretation of Peter Parker, including Tom Holland's. Because at least with Tom Holland's Peter Parker, while he can be annoying, he is likable. I feel he could have become likable if we got a sequel, which is safe to say that's not gonna happen. I mean, all I needed was one scene of levity. One scene where he makes light of a bad situation instead of acting miserable and depressed. One scene where he actually acts like Peter Parker. And I guess we kind of get something like that at the end, but I'm not a big fan of the note this movie finishes on, where he abandons his friends, the same friends he's been disrespecting the whole movie. I get that they wanted a final swing, and usually I'm ecstatic to see this element of the character intact, but with the context of this movie, I feel this wasn't the ideal ending. I think it would have been better if MJ, Harry, and Peter were all together for the final scene, but it's whatever. Overall, I really don't mind this movie as much as some people. I find it can be a little too joyless at times, and of course Peter being the way he was I didn't like. I also think the movie could have been cut down a lot. Some scenes just drag on way too long. Everything else I like though. The directing, the acting, the Spider-Man suit, and the VFX. While they're not used much, when they are, they're great. And for a fan film, they're exceptional. So yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.